Thank you very much for making the time to chat with me today.
No problem, man. I really appreciate it. It's gonna be a good time, I think.
Absolutely. So I really want to take it back to the beginning and ask you how you became interested in writing.
I remember going to my local library when I was maybe 17, and I got Pablo Neruda's collected poetry. I remember the way he put words together was like really inspiring, but it didn't really take hold of me like the urge to write until I started reading more. And I can't remember the exact moment, but I just liked the way it made me feel, I guess.
Mm.
I used to write down lists like my thoughts and my goals and just random little stories. And eventually I just kept writing. And eventually I started writing poetry, and I shared it with family, and they were encouraging. And I just kept doing it. I had no intent of submitting it to magazines. And I did that for maybe 10 years before, or maybe how long? About 8 years I wrote, just kept it to myself. And then eventually I started sending it out, and it got a good response. So ever since then, I just kept writing and sending it out. It just took some courage to have the belief in myself that people would connect with it. It still blew me away, like people connecting with your work and stuff.
I know it really just takes one person to read a piece of writing and vibe with it, and
Yeah,
it changes everything for a writer because we're just sitting by ourselves typing away,
yeah,
trying to make sense of something, and it's nice when people can connect on that
yeah.
level.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I feel grateful for a lot of gratitude for writing and literature. That's awesome.
Yeah. And speaking of poetry and your poetry in particular, we are going to be publishing one of your poems, Notes on Free Will, in our third issue. I'd love
Like,
to chat a bit about that and understand the process behind it.
I remember I just wanted to go in this really forthcoming direction, and thank you again for publishing it. Of course, connecting with it. Hopefully, it helps some people, your readers, and inspire somebody. But the process, it didn't start with the first line. It sort of started with those details of my childhood. Uh,
Mm,
it started with just memories of seeing my dad come home from being in an institution, from being in jail, and I remember it vividly. And I remember just wanting to convey that in a poetic form, and it felt right. It felt very cathartic. I think it started with that line where my dad coming home from jail. I can't be confined for. I haven't reached the age where I can be confined for my mistakes.
hmm
It started
Yeah.
like that, and I kept sort of excavating different scenes from my life, and it was very spontaneous. It didn't happen like I didn't. It's very free flowing, the process of it. That's how it usually is. I remember the title came for me really soon too. The title Notes on Free Will, and I used that as like an atlas for how to my message I wanted to get across. Like you don't have to be defined by your past history or generational curses and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last stanza, were you, did that come to you very quickly while you were writing the poem, or did that come near the end of making it, where you say, I remain wholly capable of anything. The overwhelming proof is embedded in
Yeah,
my genes.
yeah, that
Very
came.
powerful.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Ali. It started. I remember that came before the middle. Like I
Mm,
had the middle and I mean the beginning, sort of, and the end. And I remember that's a good way to wrap it up, but I had to work on the middle and make it balanced. I didn't want to have I tried to make it. a balanced piece and
Hmm.
have dimension and urgency, all those things, and truth telling and all that. But yeah, the ending, I think it wrapped it up. I got it across what I wanted, and that's not always the case. Like I think I said exactly what I wanted to say with this piece.
Hmm.
Just having, because I wrote it maybe over 2 years ago, and it was rejected a lot, but I really believed in it because it was something close to my heart.
Yeah, I'm so glad you kept submitting it. And thank you to all those lit mags that rejected. Glad it's with us.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm happy this with Archetype. It's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. And every time I read this poem, I take something new from it. But the one thing that is so overwhelming is this idea that, you know, the title says it, Notes on Free Will. You really can, we have so many options for what our life can look like. And even though our history might be part of our character and who we are, we can always grow past that and change the future for the better for ourselves. And I love that idea. I think it's so potent.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Ali. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to have it as like a note, like a very informal way of introducing these little scenes, and it's really personal. I think it's my most personal poem because it gets so specific.
I was going to say it's interesting that like there's you say so much, but then there's also so much room to go
Oh,
beyond what's said in the poem, and you really toe the line between, making it satisfying for the reader, but also leaving like not just spilling out
oh
everything,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that really helps make it accessible too.
yeah. That's one thing I'm learning get as I write more is having uh having room for the reader to be engaged in the work and bring their own ideas and have an experience with it. Because I don't want to be too specific, but I don't want to lead a reader in the dark. And I didn't think about that when I was writing it. I'm just like, man, this feels good, and I
Yeah.
hope somebody likes it and connects with it because it's just my little story. But I'm sure everybody has their notes on free will, like their own
Amen.
vision.
Totally.
Yeah,
I love that. I wanted to talk about uh, what you're currently working on. You said you're working on a collection.
yeah,
How's
yeah.
that going?
Uh, it's going slow. Yeah, but I've been doing a lot of reading too. Like I just got into James Joyce
Hmm.
and reading Dubliners and a portrait of the artist as a young man. But this collection, I think I want to make it a hybrid, and I never worked on hybrids before. So it's a particular challenge where I want to make it a memoir and a long form poem. And I have like the base material, but I haven't really arranged it how I want it to look.
Hmm.
It's really in a nebulous space where it's really in a preliminary time, but it's gonna. I'm hoping it's gonna come together soon. Just have it's gonna be in that same vein of notes on free will. I think it's even more personal because it gets very specific,
Hmm.
uh, and my life and my parents, my childhood, and up until this point. So it's gonna be like an autobiographical fictional memoir with a poetry. It's gonna be like really
Awesome. The whole nine
challenging.
yards.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
I just said the whole 9 yards.
Oh
You're really
yeah,
going
so
for it.
much, very dense. Like
Yeah.
I just have to balance out like how the reader finds it accessible.
Awesome. Well, those were all the questions I had. Not sure if you had any questions for me, if there's anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up.
Uh, thanks for having me, man, and your readers, and I feel very fortunate to just have publications like Archetype that take risk and really connect with the right contributors and writers, and can't wait to read the issue, man, and
Thank
see
you
who
so much.
else is in there. And thanks for connecting to Notes on Free Will. Hopefully I publish with you guys again. I'll definitely
Fingers
submit again.
crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do. We're really excited to publish this poem. It's one of my favorites for this issue, so I'm excited for people to get their hands on it.
Oh, I had a question for you,
Yeah.
actually. Because my fiance, I told her, I was like, wow, this magazine got back with me, Archetype. They liked it a lot. And she was like, really? And I just wanted to,
Shocked.
yeah. She just was like, I just want to know like your experience when you first read it, or
Mhm.
do you remember how
Ye-
you were feeling?
Yeah, I remember how I was feeling. I was so one of the lines that really hit me was my maternal grandmother was like the Gordian knot. She'd hit knives on the stove instead of pots. And that tied with the last stanza about, how you're capable of anything. It like I started reflecting on my family, my family history. And like I related a lot to that idea of your grandmother, and my grandmother was very unique in how she lived her life. And so I remember just feeling so understood in a way when I was reading
Oh,
the
yeah.
poem, and it felt so good to like read all these very personal details about your life, and how some of it is very tough to hear, but then there's so much hope at the end of the poem. And one of the things that we always try to do with Archetype is show life as it is, but also understand how beautiful it is and how overwhelmingly like perfect life can be when we describe it through writing and through words. And your poem did that so well. And I was just so like, as soon as I read it, I was like, okay, we need to get this in the next issue.
That's so flattering, man. And I'm so happy that I understand exactly what you experience, because I feel it all the time when I'm reading different work, and it just resonates in a deep way, a very
Yeah.
deep way.
And I think one last thing, I think how you wrote it, you can tell that you're building trust with the reader, because you're not telling us how to feel. You're just describing your experience, and you're kind of hoping that someone will relate. And I think that's really beautiful too.
oh man, that means so much, because I never want to explain a lot and say, oh, you're gonna feel this, and like
Yeah.
just leave it open-ended, because I want to have the reader have free will to, they can read it and walk away, and we got freedom, we forget that sometimes too, like as human beings, but man, I'm so happy. I hope it touches a lot of people and reaches a lot of individuals wherever they are in their lives. It can be teenagers or elderly people.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that motivate me, is just connecting with people. And I think words are the best way to do that.
Amen. And I definitely think it will.
Oh man, I can't wait, Ali. Thank you so much for talking to me, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.